We're back. It's over. You know, the point I was going to make that I forgot to make, or I didn't make yet, was that it's understandable why the management liked my productions, especially the ones back when I was actually on the road, because they were getting a view of their operation from my eyes, and that's what they wanted. And you know, TriMet operations management is actually one of the best operations management in all of the transit industry. That's where some of the recognition about TriMet comes from. It's the operational management. We're not talking about the politics and all this other stuff, you know, which is where I was hammering Fred at. But the operations management is actually very excellent. And, you know, if you live it depends on where you live, of course, the impact the system has on you. But from my vantage point in Northwest Portland, it really is an incredibly good system. Where I work on the minor routes, it's a little bit different story. But when Steve Banner was here and Peggy was here, I know they wanted to see their operation with an unbiased view, and that was what the management liked about this stuff, is that they were seeing something that they're not going to see if I'm shut down. Now there will be no avenue of communication to see what I see. And I don't have an agenda. People might think there's an agenda. There is no agenda. I'm just living the life of a transit operator in Portland. That's what I'm doing. There's no agenda. I have no access to grime, you know. I've never had a problem with any TriMet management, actually, as on a personal level. It's a good place to work for a transit district. You know, I've only worked in one other transit district, and it was a small transit district, and I can tell you for a fact that they were good, but it was a whole different mentality over there. You know, it was really not the most intelligent people I've ever run into. The place was... Well, Santa Rosa Transit in the 80s was a different... It's like comparing apples and oranges anyway, really, when you get right down to it. So when... and I think that's what would prove to people how good the management really is that they do tolerate my kind of productions, and they do have the understanding of the value of that. And there's no ego problem with those folks in that level of management to worry about what I'm saying. They're more interested in getting an operator's point of view that's unbiased, or at least, you know, how do you get information if you're a top manager? I don't know. I mean, how do you get it? You rely on your supervisors, but sometimes that's not accurate information, is it? We know that the lower you go down on that management structure, on the bureaucratic structure, you're not always going to get accurate information about the state of affairs. But every level of bureaucracy is going to be jaundiced with its point of view on whatever given subject. So I do understand why the management enjoyed those productions, because it does give them the opportunity to see things as their frontline staff, and then they can make the necessary adjustments managerial. You see, I look at the organization as it's not a manager with a, you know, here's management, here's labor. I look at it as just a bunch of people that are trying to get the job done, and we're all supposed to be on the same team. I've said it 100 times. Managers and drivers and maintenance, we're all on the same team. We're trying to get the job done. We want to get transit services provided as best we can to the public out here. Now, how's the management going to do that if they don't have the information? They have to have the right information to make their decisions. If we don't give them the right information, they're not going to be able to do the right policies and procedures to get the job done properly. So, and that was one thing I've always respected about our management, was that were able to understand that. And it's a very progressive organization in many ways, and I do appreciate that about working at TriMet. It's a very progressive organization. Look at some of those real old crony transits. You're talking real crony, big-time cronyism, you know. Okay, there's cronyism here too, but it's everywhere, in every level of government, everywhere, even private companies, it's the same thing. But at least here there's a more experienced and educated outlook on transit services. Yeah, I know we're all into the rail right now. You know, I've never been a big rail fan. I don't think it's the panacea that it's made out to be. Basically because it's inflexible. And it's too expensive to put in. I mean, you really have to start looking at that. And, you know, sometimes I wonder about some of the planning things going on here, but be it as it may, if you live in Portland, you cannot, if you live in the city of Portland, I live in Northwest, there is absolutely no complaining that you can do about TriMet. It's just unbelievable in this city. And every visitor that comes here knows it. Now, if you live out on Bethany Boulevard, which is where I drive, it's a whole nother story. But from this point of view, downtown Portland, man, you got service. You got free service. You got streetcar service. You got rail service. I got bus service going every direction, right from my location here in Northwest Portland. No, it doesn't run all hours of the night, but it runs enough, you know, especially the heavy use line like the 15 and the 20, they're running. If you need to get somewhere, you can get there in Portland.